Hi, good afternoon, everyone. We'll just wait for a few more seconds for everyone to trickle in for this exciting and also engaging interactive webinar with Martha. Also, some housekeeping items. This webinar is being recorded. So if you have any questions, concerns, if you have to step out, by all means, you could put your questions in the Q&A, and I will be more than happy to moderate them on your behalf as well. Also, the presentation will also be emailed to you as well. So like that, as a reference point, if you want to touch base and meet with Martha afterwards, right there, you could definitely go over more enhance the conversation in a particular slide. Okay. And at the same time, just feel free to introduce yourself, what industry you're in. So it's a good opportunity for you to network. But at the same time, we could definitely carry the conversation for the webinar as key examples. If you're a veteran-owned small business, or women-owned small business, minority-owned small business, and 8A certified business, right there, we're able to put more additional examples or goods and services that you have and what you need to do to grow your business. So without further ado, let me go ahead and introduce myself. My name is Jesus Padilla. I'm the manager of administrative services here at the Florida SBDC at FIU under the Miami-Dade Business Navigator program. I'll give you a brief description of what is the Miami-Dade Business Navigator program. It was established in part of the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021, and it uses the community navigator approach to help you, the small business owners, with the economic recovery. As such, it's comprised as the lead hub. In this case, it is the Florida SBDC at FIU, as a center of network of spokes organizations to deploy community advocates to work with the small businesses in the recovery and the resiliency. The overall goal is to, once again, to assist you. And as such, some technical assistance, trainings and outreach as you're in today, along with any information, resources to enhance and grow your business. So once again, the overall focus is to create that local community navigator network to assist us socially, economically, disadvantaged businesses with consulting, mentoring, and training. And also, we're also targeting the minority-owned small businesses, women-owned businesses, veteran-owned, and LGBTQ businesses.
Sorry.
And also, not only with the Florida SBDC at FIU, here are some other organizations that are also part of the Navigator program, as we're creating that economic prosperity and ecosystem in the community. We have Ascendus, we have branches, the EDC of South Miami-Dade, the Miami-Dade Chamber of Commerce, Prospera, and Startup FIU Procurement. So all these organizations are here to assist you at no cost to grow your business in areas of access to capital, marketing, government contracting, any different facets of what a small business entails. We have specialized consultants that can assist you. And I just saw one question right now. I just want to touch base. If your business is located in Broward or Monroe County, we'll be able to assist you along giving you additional resources in your neighborhood, technical assistance as well. You're welcome. So without further ado, allow me to introduce you to Martha Roy. She's one of our business consultants in the realm of government contracting, and she'll be delivering today's webinar. So like I said, if there's any questions in the Q&A or in the chat, by all means, Laura and I will be moderating them. So right there, we'll be ongoing the conversation. So thank you. And Martha, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you, Jesus. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time this afternoon to attend this webinar. So I know it seems like a lot on the screen. So I'm really gonna touch on a high-level view of how to leverage your small business certifications to obtain government contract. So we would consider the why. As an entrepreneur, it's a personal decision and it's a hard decision because it takes a lot of time and resources. So we would learn the different government certification programs, because I'm sure everybody on the call is gonna fit in one or more categories. So the funding sources that influence the type of required certification, the levels of government agencies, because this is who buys your products. These are your potential customers, and the products and services. Basically, that's what the government buys, right? Your benefits on certifications, the advantages, what types of certifications are there? Well, believe it or not, there's local, state, and federal, and each of them require different kinds of criteria and different applications. So understanding which programs have set aside and what are participation goals, I guess, and then I'll quickly cover about the different methods of procurement, because if you're new in the game, going for large contracts may not be such a reasonable path, but there are other opportunities that you can pursue. I'm gonna take a minute and welcome my friend and my colleague, Luis Batista. I just saw him sign up. I wanna thank Luis because he helped me with some of the brainstorming behind this presentation, and I hope I did him proud. And also he'll be there to help fill in the gap, as we call it. So the first thing we want to ask, right, is why government contracting and certification? Because I know a lot of people get in business with the concept of, oh, I want to be a government contractor and get government contracts and get rich. Well, if that concept was true, I always tell folks, I'd be the first one not to be interfacing, medium like this today. So I would be a rich government contractor. So it takes patience, it takes determination, it takes support, and all the above. So the big question is why. It's not easy, with all the stuff that I've just said, but thank God there are assistance available to small businesses, and there are offices in each of the government agencies, which is called your Office of Small and Disadvantaged Business Utilization. A lot of people don't even use this resource. And of course, these resources are usually pretty good once you get your certification or in the process of trying to learn and understand the government arena. And so now, this is pretty much a report of what the government, so the goals for the government overall, every year, and some of you guys have probably heard of mandated goals. Mandated goals meaning that by law, federally mandated, that whatever billion of dollars that is allocated, for example, 2020, so you had 145, and we're talking in billions, right? So imagine 23% of that is dedicated just for small businesses. Now you can consider yourself a small business, but if you're not in compliance with the government small business rules and regulation, you're not considered a small business. You could just be that in your head. And then you have your small disadvantaged businesses. So, so 5% of these, of the total overall $1 billion, and we go on and on. So these are all the different types of certification programs and small business programs that the government have, because the government do recognize that small businesses are the backbone of the economy. And we also know that small businesses have the most challenges in getting the right resources, in getting off the ground, and what have you. So this is the federal government's way of trying to make things happen for small businesses, to have like a bite or say in the game. So key program benefits. So now on top of everything, and I think I have it on the other slide, the mandated towards hub zones. We'll cover hub zone a little bit later, because I think some people have the misconception that hub zones is both of the criteria that has to be met, location and employees. It's either or. So we'll cover that later on. Then you have your contract set-asides. So what your set-asides mean is like the government can have contracts dedicated only to women-owned businesses, only to veteran-owned businesses, only to veteran-owned businesses, meaning that those dollars are mandated for only these groups, for those groups that have been recognized and comply to be in that group, because you just can't be, in the certification group not having certification, for example. So then you have your sole source awards. Your sole source awards usually, in my times with the government, it would be when, in case of emergencies, in case of, we've gone out there and looked for sources. There's the sources sought that there's this term in the federal government where they'll send out that, and nobody seemed to be able to do that thing, but we know that Jesus company, is able to do that and deliver the services. So we are able to write up a justification for that sole source contract. But under government programs like this, the government can dedicate, and I've seen that mostly in the 8A program. I'm gonna kind of let Luis add anything here because I know that's his really strength. The government can, justify awarding this contract to this certain company. So that's like the sole source award. Luis, did you want to put anything in?
Yes, I do, and it's not anything beneficial to everyone, but it's just a reality. There are awards, for example, indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity contracts, that an example is the 8A Star 3. That has 1,104 vendors on it. IT vendors that are 8A and qualified for that program. 93%, this is right from the horse's mouth, are direct awards within that IDIQ. So everything else, Martha said is right on. I just wanted to add that once you're inside one of these large indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity, or blanket purchase agreements, or government-wide acquisition contract, they also do a lot of direct award within those contracts.
Thank you, Luis. And so, and we'll go in it because he studied with the 8A, which is what everybody's goal should be if you're a government contractor, but it shouldn't be your primary goal when you first start up. It should be after you've been in business 5 to 7 years is what my recommendation is, because it's a long and tedious process and you have to show past performance. There's so much more that you have to show for the 8A, but once, as Louis said, once you get into these goals, the sky can be the limit. And of course, you have your full and open competition. This is what, if the terms RFPs is familiar to you, that's your request for proposals. And contrary to demand, price is one of the least evaluation factor in RFPs. RFPs looking for capability, resources, responsibility. You have to be a responsible and oh my God, it's 2 hours. And something, contractors. So this is usually large businesses that goes for full and open competitions. So now, how funding influence the type of certification? As we said earlier, government-wide, 23% of whatever $1 billion worth of acquisition that is set aside for that fiscal year, 23% of that has to be reserved for small businesses. The small businesses are defined you could be small disadvantaged business, and that's usually the 8A program, and also the DBE program would fall under that. So you have your women-owned small businesses. So this is a federal, actually all of them are federal. So the women-owned small businesses. Now you also have your your WOSDB, your disadvantaged women, your WDOSB, which is an other certification that's inside the WOSB, but it requires a lot more criteria because it's based on you showing that you're a minority and also disadvantaged. And so then you have your service disabled. Now inside the service disabled falls also your regular veteran-owned businesses, because you have, not all veterans are service disabled. So there's two certificates, there's when you do your service disabled veteran, you start the same application as your veteran-owned business, but it asks for that disability level and the percentage of disability. So that's how you get that extra service disabled. And then again, your hub zone. The hub zone is either location or number of employees on that contract. So I just wanted to reemphasize the amount of spending that the government does, in billions of dollars. And even if you think, 1% of that, I think I would take 0.1%. But anyways, just to reemphasize that, the money's there, the government is buying products, services, and everything else. So it's just positioning yourself and try to get a piece of that part. So I wanted to just cover the level of government agencies. So you have your civilian agencies, and all of these could be potential, customers. All of them are buying stuff. All of them are under the mandate of having to deal with small businesses in their acquisition process. So, basically that's, I wanted to just kind of let you know, like, this is the Department of State, Department of Homeland Security. So, civilian federal agencies, so they also have nice budget for acquisition, and there are good sources. Then you have your military, bases. You don't have to necessarily be a veteran, to tap into these military agencies. Again, everybody buys services, everybody buys product, everybody's buying something. It's trying to identify who's buying what, and if your commodity happens to be part of that. You even have your independent agencies, that has to abide by the rules. So you have the CIA. So the executive branch doesn't have any oversight on them. But when it comes to procurement, we're talking about public dollars, and everybody uses that. So then, I guess I have to touch on the legislative branch. So I won't waste too much time on this slide. So our products, right? Your products or services. It could be that at a particular time, or it could be that particular agency may not be the one that's suited for the type of products or services that you use, or they could completely use it or partially use it. So, and that's why we gave some example here. You have your aircraft parts, and, like now janitorial is more wide because everybody that has a building or space, have to clean up the space. But you have to be specific about your services, because I've worked with so many people that have so many ideas, and which is really commendable, and everything that you want to do is understood and appreciated. But you have to have a target. You have to be expert matter in something that you want to be known as. And I'm not saying that, if you do janitorial and you find a cleaning job, you're not able to subcontract with somebody and do it, but try to be specific. That always helps. Again, like I said before, all the agencies at any level could be your potential clients. Again, it's a matter of preference, who you want to work with, who you want to concentrate on. And that's part of the growing pain. That's part of the learning. It takes time. It takes patience, to be going to their website and, like we can assist with some of the reference websites and stuff. But unfortunately, as much as we love working with you guys, we're not part of your team. So therefore making it difficult to really, to really kind of, go into a lot of, details, but it takes a lot of times. And again, it's your preference as a business owner to kind of do the legwork and understand the process with all the classes that we're giving, what's on SBA, what's on YouTube, etc., to really know, how you're gonna get into this government arena, because it's not for the weak of hearts. And I always make that this disclaimer. So advantages of certifications and your benefits, because you have access to the training, like for example us, the PTAC people and what have you. There's a preference for government contracts, as I said before, because of these goals that are set aside just for small businesses and for different groups. So that increases your opportunity, to have business with the government. I like to put the partnership opportunities. A lot of people, look for subcontracting opportunities. I tell my clients, let's identify, maybe the top 10 or 12 competitors, and not only the very big muscle guys, even people almost at your level or a little higher than you, and turn those competitors into collaborators. Because what also government agencies like to see in government entities is two small businesses putting their resources together and partner, either in a joint venture, or if the one person has a veteran status or woman-owned, whatever that contract requires, but does not really have the technical skills, but find another company that has the technical skills, as long as you as the prime that receives the contract is managing the contract, is in charge of, of the overall management of the contract, you can subcontract part of that service. So they like to see that too. So to me, that's how your competitors can become your collaborators. So you have your training workshops and network opportunities and networking. Remember, guys, when you go somewhere, you network with somebody. If you make a connection within the latest 48 hours, drop an email, be memorable, make sure that person remembers you, especially if there's a possibility or a future opportunity, or you never know where life takes you. I like to open the doors every chance that I have. So now the types of certifications. So since we're in Miami, I mostly have this slide for Miami, but Broward County and West Palm, they offer the same type of certification. Now for Miami-Dade, I'll go over on the next slide. What I know Miami-Dade, I'm not sure or Broward or West Palm does that. So basically, you can get your small business enterprise certification, goods or services. And then the reason that they separate goods, services, construction, and even engineering, architect and engineering on the next slide, is because for constructions, you have to definitely have your JC license, and it has to be, whoever, you don't really have to be the owner, but if, the qualifier. So it takes a little bit, a different requirements to get that application. Both our services basically straightforward, where you would just submit the required documents, they vet you. Now, I had mine during the pandemic when it first started in 2020. So I was, they did like a site visit, a virtual site visit, but I understand that they're going back now to physical site visits. Even if it's a home-based business, they do come and visit that area. So, home base is basically a corner of somebody's home that, so what I tell people, make sure that it's cleaned up, make sure that, it looks like, that's where you would live from one section of your house to the next to work, and that your local business electricity is displayed, so when they come in, they have really been easy. I have not been rejected with any application that I've done with anybody so far. So we talked about the architect and engineering. The reason that I have this one here is because in Miami-Dade County, if your local business tax receipt is less than a year old, you're not able to get the SBE, whether you're construction, A&E, or goods or services. So what I do is I encourage my folks to go ahead and apply for this, because not only do you do some kind of little exercise of what the certification process requires, you have a lot of your paperwork already in the system. And then with that, once that, is in the system, I usually can move forward with the public schools, if that's the client's desire to do so. And again, the reason I have the DBE here, even the DBE is for, is federal driven, but this one is used for the airport, any concession at the airport or what have you. So for the airport here, I believe there's an AC in front of it for airport concession, DBE, and then you have your Florida Department of Transportation. This is the one that they also recognize. The reason I have it under the local is because you can do the application in the same place you can do this, if you wish to go for your DBE. So usually what I do, as soon as we register with Miami-Dade County, because the rule of thumb is you have to register as a vendor. They don't know that you exist if you're not a vendor in the system. So the vendor is the prerequisite to go to certification. Because if you're not, you could be a vendor and choose not to proceed certification. However, if you want to proceed certification, you cannot do it without signing up as a vendor. So whatever municipality I'm working with, whether it's Miami-Dade or Broward, once we do the SBE or LBD, we move on to the school board. Now, if it's Miami-Dade, we do Miami-Dade, and then we go to, once we obtain the Miami-Dade certification, we go to Broward County, depending on the services that the person is offering. If they want to be registered in all the school systems in the area or tri-counties, I, move forward with Broward. All you have to do is the affidavit and a few documents, which is a lot less because they have some kind of agreement. And we do the same thing for West Palm. So that would cover our local certifications. Oops. Okay, so now, since we're in the state of Florida, so that's the state that I'm familiar with. State of Florida offered the, CBE, which they certified you as a business enterprise. You can also get the DBE on their website, which is the same as the one Miami-Dade offers, because remember, DBE is federal. So, and also you can get your veteran or your veteran disabled through the state. And remember, each certifications are different. Your local certifications, okay, why are they different? Because it depending on the funding that depending on what funds that are allocated to that project. if those, funds that come out of Tallahassee, what have you, that come to Miami-Dade County for local projects, they go to Miami-Dade County, they go to the school board, Miami-Dade College, or whatever have you. The SBE certification, any projects that has to do with local stuff is their local certification that they look for, because that's where they get the credit for. Now, any state-oriented job, any state-funded jobs, they would look for the state certification, and then federal and what have you. So the state of Florida offers the CBE, and so you can also get your veteran and your disabled veteran with them. Again, the very first thing right there at www.dmsmyflorida.com, you have to register as a vendor. You go to the vendor portal, you register as a vendor. It happens instantly. The minute you complete everything, they send you your vendor number, and your vendor file is created. So at the same with some clients during the same session, we're able to go over to the certification button where we could review what the requirements are, because you can't do it in one sitting because of the documents that you have to have prepared, what they call list of required documents. So we go over the documents, and some of them I would eventually, facilitate if the client's having problem coming up with it. And then we'll upload the documents and we'll get a certification. So going to the federal right now, the federal government, the first thing with the federal government is to have a SAM profile. So what I'm seeing with a lot of clients is when you have the profile is one thing, you can open up a SAM profile, but there's an application when you're actually registering your entity. And so a lot of folks leave that step. And right before you submit, so as you register for SAM, you have a SAM profile. Now you have to go in and register your entity, because I don't believe most of you that have dealt with SAM within the past, I can't even say a year. To me, it's been like 6 months. Less. They're no longer, oh my God, this is October, maybe from the beginning of the year. So they no longer recognize your DUNS number. The DUNS number used to be the number that when you go into SAM, that used to be your validation. Now it's the unique employee ID. So yeah, that's the UEI number, which becomes, your number. So as you go through that process, you're supposed to get a case number. You're supposed to get a UEI number. So I find a lot of clients, once they go into SAM and they, create a profile, they don't really go in and register the entity. Registering the entity is an extra step. And right before you press that submit button, it's gonna ask you if you want to link your SBA profile to your SAM, which is always a yes. So it's a little, I don't know why they do it. It's a little button. You have to kind of know what you're looking at on the screen to even see it. So this is the process for SAM. It's, again, it's doable. I tell people, please pack your patience. I didn't make these websites. I didn't, so we just have to go with the flow. My job is to put you in compliance and get you over that hump so we can move on to the next thing. So socioeconomic interest, again, large or small businesses, as we looked at for the 8A, you can be either, and you could, Black, Hispanic, Native American, Asian, or white. So on the federal level, it's race neutral and gender neutral. So we talked about the service disabled. So again, gender neutral is right here, because you could either be a male or female. You could be a large or small business. And then race neutral, you could fall into any of these. You qualify. For here, It's only for minority women. Oh, that's what I have to remember. Yeah. So now you have your WOSB. This is the one that is, you have to be a woman, and you can either be a large or small business and still get this certification, even though there is a dollar threshold that you cannot exceed. It's a formula, your past 3 years of sales or what have you, but it's really like 750, close to almost $1 million. So most people that I work with qualify for this. And so this one, that's where the minority, and it's only reserved for small businesses and for minority women. But again, like I said, I usually encourage every woman to go after this one, no matter what your background is. And so we covered the disabled veteran. Again, if you did not get a disabled letter, but you still served your country, you can get your veteran-owned small business certification. Again, it's race neutral and gender neutral. So your hub zone is based on either location or workers, not both. Now, some people happen to have both. If you happen to, it doesn't exclude you that if your company is located in the hub zone and you have a contract and you happen to hire people, probably that's even gonna make you look even better, or but however, by law, it's only you either physically located there to be qualified for hub zone contracts, or 30% of your workforce on that contract has to come from a hub zone area. So the next thing is your 8A. Again, it is the cream of the crop. And I'm gonna really let give Rhys a few minutes on 8A. But I tell people, if you don't show me your business plan for the 8A certification, we're not even gonna discuss that. We're gonna start by working on a plan to work the 8A, because out of that, I mean, it even requires for a business plan anyway as part of it eventually. So that's all practice. So it could take like I would say 3 months, as if somebody is super serious, just to go through the guidelines, just to understand the program and know exactly this is what you want to do. So Louis, is there anything you can add to 8A?
The reason we don't suggest you get your 8A out of the gate is because 8A allows for direct awards up to $4.5 million, and in construction, millions of dollars higher. Now, would you give somebody a job of any size unless you can validate their experience in some way? And that's why it's so important to get that performance history. And that may take years. It will take years. Now, some people come and they already have their 8A, and someone here may have it already. And in those cases, we'll look back at companies that have had 8A successfully in that specific NICS code, and those companies that have already graduated, and those companies that will graduate, say, within the next 18 months. And you can start forming a relationship that way. You usually want to start, creating a performance as soon as you can, so that's a given. And the other thing is, the 8A program is a 9-year program. In the first 5 years are really kind of earmarked as, if you're not doing something the first 5 years, they're not expecting you to do much the last
Yes.
4 years. So you want to be really ready when you get it. In some areas, it's an extremely powerful certification. In some other areas, not so much. So we want to check that for you as well.
Thank you, Luis. Thank you so much. As he said, and as a rule of thumb, the SBA usually rejects the 8A application, at least the first one. And a lot of times people get discouraged. And and no, they come back and ask for clarification, because it's important that if something is murky to somebody, and then they ask this is your company, that's your documents that you're putting together, and for you to clarify that, and you're having problems with that. That's why I said, with the government, please give them exactly what they ask for, and be as clear and as transparent as you possibly can, because that's just the way it works. Because a lot of times they ask for documents, and as we go into the certifications, a lot of people, like the taxes and what have you, and I said, please make sure you submit what was given to the IRS. It's not as if the SBA don't have access to the IRS. They're just checking your credential, as a person, what they're asking for your company, and the way you submit your documents is a representation of you. So like Louis just touched on the set aside, not really sole source, but the question here, right? So the difference between set aside and goal. So really, like, theoretically, all programs have set aside, because that's the little percentages that we went over earlier. No, I'm sorry. So they could have, they're gonna set aside this portion of the work to set goals to these, so usually the way set aside works, the scope of work, I remember when I was in the government, the scope of work comes out, we take a look at it. A lot of times the technical staff will already cover smaller portion of that scope, where if there's a pool of small businesses that have the resource, the capabilities for this job. That's why I always tell small businesses, please, there's something called sources sort. SOURCES, SOUGHT. And a lot of people don't pay attention to them. Why? They don't even know what it is. They don't understand what it is. Well, if you're registered on any government entity site, or you have certification, most likely you have seen this document come across your email. I said, please take the time and fill it out. Whether you could, it's a bunch of questions that they ask. You answer them to the best of your knowledge and as honestly as you possibly can about your company. What these things do, it's the government agencies looking for other sources to do the kind of scope that's coming out. So that's, this is what they're looking at. Can we possibly take this scope and set it aside and apply a goal to it only for small businesses, only for women-owned? But, because the procurement process is so convoluted, you guys think it's hard on this side. On the government side, oh my God. Because, usually when you get a scope of work, so you backdate, 9 months. So if you want to actually, if you want to have a contract award, so it's usually a 9-month process, because remember, if it's an RFP over 250,000, we have to do the public advertisement. Once we advertise, there's the cone of silence. We can no longer talk to anybody. But the thing was open all this time. Nobody had any questions. All of a sudden, the bid comes out. Everybody wants to call the contracting officer and have a conversation. Everybody wants to send an email. We can no longer talk to you. As the minute the project is advertised, we can no longer talk to you because, it's by law. Anything you do, any questions that you have has to be sent in writing. And you know how the contracting staff sometimes gets, not very happy, because some tiny little thing that people would ask, what they probably should have looked at prior to, doing conversation when the project was in the works. So that's when you meet the buyers. That's when you meet, because I tell people, when the project is advertised, most likely the targeted folks that's going to get these projects are already on the playing field, because you already have your relationship with the buying people. You know what's coming out. You've learned of the project, because 6 months or 9 months ago you went on the projected opportunities or upcoming opportunities. You saw that this project may be coming out. You look at it and you see who the buyer is. You make your contact with the buyer. You go back and see the old contract that was awarded and see what price did they, what was their edge to get that. These are the legwork that needs to be done prior to even thinking of bidding on a contract. And and then winning the contract. That's a whole other class. I know Jesus gonna make me stop, because I can go on and on with these things. Because people, this is the roadmap to government success. And that's what it takes. So as we said, the goals are there, they're established. Once they're established, they're set in gold. And the set aside or the way of reaching them, that's why they can say, oh my God, we have to set aside this contract only for women, only for WOSB. So that's when WOSB bidded, this, you can meet a map of gold, because each contracting officer have a warrant where they have to meet certain things for each fiscal year. So right now, I think they can breathe a little, because this is the first week of October. Like between, Luis can tell you, between August, really it used to start in June for us, between June and the 30th of September, where you had to try to spend any money that was expiring on the 30th, meaning, calling people, giving them work orders. I mean, it's a whole other class. But this is the kind of stuff the government does behind the scenes, to make things happen. So even though, all federal agencies have to abide by goals and what have you, but these 24 agencies, in case you guys want to maybe decide who you're going to target, they definitely, I believe they have been subject to one of the, highest, goals and participation with their contracts. So, but some of them, like Nuclear Regulation Commission, some of them are, like specified, right? So, like I always tell people, even with the Treasury and stuff like that, maybe you can look at some big contractor that has gotten a contract. Maybe there's a little part of that scope that you can deliver, because these contractors are also looking for you. You're also gold to them, because they've got to meet that goal that is set aside on the big contract that they get from these guys. So if I'm making any sense. And so, federal and non-federal entities have to comply with the, with the requirements of the government. That's the bottom line. So I want to leave room for some questions. And so I wanted to really touch base on the methods of procurement. So there's things that are, we have your micro purchases. Micro purchases are usually, less than 10,000, and I think they just brought it up to, less than 12,000. So for goods, what this means, you can acquire goods and services, goods and supplies, and services. So what are the requirements? Your price has to be considered reasonable. Credibly suppliers. I know some, there's your credible adjusting contracts, but I also know on a local level that the micro purchases are mostly used in the pre-qualified pools. For example, I know Miami-Dade County has the pre-qualified pools for the roofers and the architect engineer. There are certain trades, there are certain goods and even supplies. Look what happened with COVID, right? So they were doing a lot of under $12,000, and I think it even went to up to 25. Where they could use a P card and a purchase order. That's mean you don't have to compete as long as your price is reasonable. They can use that micro purchase. And I always tell people, if a micro purchase, even if you have 2, 3, 4 of them, that's considered past experience. That's considered that you have had delivered services to the government. So over here, a simple and informal type of bid. So these are usually between $10,000 and under $22,000. Even though risk, I think that it went up to 25. I've seen it somewhere since the thing. I probably need to update these slides. And then for services, most use more restrictive. So what they mean by restrictive dollars, so certain funding from the government are restricted, more restricted than other funding, and it would take too long to go into the different things because the government, it's not really real dollars. Like a contracting officer don't get a suitcase of dollars to get a contract, so they get a warrant, and then with the call of money. Like sometimes they get, certain part of money or allocation of funds for 2 years, where they can award contract within a 2-year period, with those funds. And some funds are multi-year and what have you. So then you have your more formal advertising. So your formal advertising, as you can see, for services, it's not applicable. You cannot use that method of procurement for services. It's only for goods and supplies, and that goes up to $250,000. So usually those bids are public, they're solicited either through advertisement or sometimes those notices that you get through email. What's important here is usually those seal bids, they're firm fixed price contract. And as a contractor, you have to be so careful when you're dealing with firm fixed price contract. Because meaning, if you tell the government that this card is costing you, $1 per card, and then you forgot the shipping, that was 2 cents, and then we're talking about, volumes of, thousands and thousands of cards, those 2 cents could make a difference for you. Or the other side of it could be that you sell the government at $1 per card, and you really can average the cards at 75 to 80 cents. So anything extra is yours. But firm fixed price contract mean whatever you quote is what you're gonna have to live with no matter what. Oops. Okay. And responsible bidders lowest. So, of course, the government always says the bidders lowest price, but the word responsible, when you guys see the responsible, meaning that somebody can be of the lowest bidder, but if they're not responsible, they still would not get the contract. There's justification that the contracting officer can go to the next lowest bidder. And so cost or price analysis, so that's a whole different class for that. And so you have your non-competitive proposals. So this one you can use for goods or services, and also for goods and supplies, and for your services. And so the requirements only from one source, that your solicitation can be come from one source. You use it when only qualifying, for qualifying circumstances. It can either be a fixed price or cost reimbursement type contract. And again, that's a whole other different thing. When you're looking to bid on government contracts, make sure you know the type of contract that you're bidding on. Firm fixed price versus cost reimbursable versus time and material, and the level of time. Louis, you got your hand up, please. And the frequency of time that you would be paid. Louis, please go ahead.
I raised it by accident. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Are we good?
Yeah, next time I raise it, it'll be for a reason.
Okay. So, like I said, I want to leave some time for some questions. So, what I said to folks is get registered, right? Everybody, you go to Sunbees. If you're in Florida, you have to register your business. You get your federal tax ID number. The one big step that, oh my God, everybody misses out is the local business tax receipt. I can, I've had companies that have incorporated back in 2015, 2016, and guess what? They get penalized. You have to pay back because, you have to decide, do you start a brand new company and lose out on all your prior years because you never got a local business tax receipt? And that's for Miami-Dade, Broward, or Palm Beach counties. And another thing with local business tax receipt, for example, if you were to, if you live in North Miami, North Miami is one of the municipalities that requires their municipality local business tax receipt prior to you being able to get the county local business tax receipt. Like where I live in one of those, municipalities where I had to go to my, building department, wherever these people are, and got my one for the city where I live, and then I got the one from the Miami-Dade County. Now, if you're in unincorporated Miami, if you're in anything that's not incorporated, like if you're not in Aventura, I know Western and Broward is one of them that requires it. Well, Hollywood does not. So you have to find out, first and foremost, does where you live with your zip code, do they require it? If they do, you get it. People, it's like a $45. It's not that expensive or ever. When you wait the multi-years and then you have to pay the penalties, that's where it gets painful. And please get your local business tax receipt. And the Dun and Bradstreet, I guess, is still something that people get, which is I think it's kind of fitting. And then and then your SAM. Again, registration in SAM is one thing, and then completing, and having a profile, literally, having a whole SAM profile takes a second step. And I think we have the questions. So I'm open to questions.
Yeah, and also once again, if you have any additional questions or anything that we can continue enhancing, like any future workshops, we're very active on social media. Shoot us an email, our YouTube channel, along with our website as well. Martha, just go to the next slide.
Okay.
And then at the same time, if you're interested to meet with our business consultants, right here is the QR code. So by all means, feel free to scan it. You could meet with Martha, but along with our other consultants under the Navigator program. So once again, the services is no cost to you. And then Martha, I have a question. And I see that you still mentioned the DUNS number. Is it still necessary? Seems like it's being used less and less.
Correct. As I said, it seems like oops, trash here now. How do we do this? Sorry.
Yeah.
Basically, we used to get it mostly for the SAM registration, and of course, SAM never recognizes the validation process. So now that's why SAM is doing the unique. I'm not an attorney, and I'm not really sure whether that is still required or not. But I know that for the federal arena, it's being less and less. If whether you put it or not, it's not a showstopper anymore.
Yes, and then I have a question. When applying for a WOSB, the Women-Owned Small Business Certification, there's a question about the time spent running the business. What if the woman that primarily runs the business has another full-time job? What is acceptable in regards to the allocated time she spends to run the business in order to obtain the certification? And I think Louis has his hand raised for this
Yes,
question.
and I will follow up from what Louis has to say. Go ahead, Louis.
And that's because it's a very common question, right? They don't specify. But the number I've kind of settled on and has never come back to me as an issue is 30 hours. And that could be 2 hours in the evening, that's 10 hours, and 10 hours Saturday and Sunday, something like that. But that does need to be addressed, and they do look at that.
But Louis, I'm gonna chime in. My experience has been, I have seen where I have not seen a number set of hours, but in a lot of the certification packages now, they are asking whether that you have other interest other than the business. And so that's usually if it's a full-time job. And my experience has been, especially if you're going for a government contract, how are you gonna be able to give 100% in two separate entities? That's what I would ask the business owner.
I can't speak to that.
But you know what I mean? Because
I'm speaking to the 8A certification itself.
okay, yeah, with the 8A, with 30, 2 hours at night, again, the whole concept of the certification, right? The reason the vetting process, because I kind of being on the other side at times, not that I understand the craziness of the government and the madness, but there's a method to everybody's madness. What, back in the days, what people used to do, people would find a woman like me and put me as the front. Let's say, for example, of an engineering firm. Now, today, with my background, I did work in construction contracting for many years and worked with engineers and learned how to read plans to make sure that the deliverables were in compliance with what I was acquiring. So maybe I may be able to get away with that. But what the government is trying to avoid is like having a veteran, having a woman as a front. When really, when you think about it, if you're working full-time somewhere, how are you dedicating full-time to this, because it's a privilege, right? Certification is a privilege because not everybody can get it. So, and I know my government had concern when I answer these questions, but just think about, just the appearance.
Mirtha, I have another question for you. I have a small business offering graphic design services. Began the company in January 22. Maybe I have to wait till I have 1 year. Does this certification works for me to obtain a minority certification? Because the main question is that I really don't get is if I want to become a vendor for the Miami-Dade Public School Board, do I need a certification or do my business doesn't apply? How can you elaborate a little bit more about that?
No, the number one rule is register. Once you get your local business tax receipt, whether you're interested in certification or not, register with every municipality that you can think that you want to do business with. Because if you're not a registered vendor, they don't know that you exist.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, FIU, Miami-Dade College, whoever it is. It could be the hotel down the street because they have to have a mechanism to process you in the system. And each person have, the system requires something else. So, Louis, for the person that just asked this question, yes, 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 yes. You want to think about certification down the line, it's up to you. It doesn't hurt. I tell people it does not hurt. The sooner you go through the hard process, the sooner you can be ready for government arena, right? But register as a vendor, please, please, please.
Awesome. All right. Perfect. And I don't see any additional questions. Okay, perfect. All right. So I know that we're past time, but if there's any additional questions, by all means, we're always in communication. You have my email along with Laura's email as well. So if there's any additional questions, additional workshops, anything on how we can assist you to address any small business needs or challenges, if it's you need additional capital, some marketing assistance, or trying to solicit or find additional government contracts, we have consultants that are able to assist you, and also do some research how to do cross the T's, dot the I's, so we'll be able to grow your business at no cost to you. So thank you for attending today's webinar. We'll be in communication as in November we're going to be having another webinar in terms of certifications. Martha, it's a certification. What's the title? It's
I'm sorry, it's gonna be small business certification. And we want to offer it sometime in my
November.
boss
Yes,
Jesus will let me know.
yes.
But so what we want to cover the ones that are still on the call. We just talked about all the different level of certification, especially for the person that just did the company in January and wondering if you're thinking about certification or wondering is it worth it, it will be a good class to take because it shows you what it requires for you to get it, the steps of getting those certifications.
Yeah, so just be on the lookout. And I'll personally send you an email with the finalized logistics of the event, and we'll take it from there. But thank you for attending today's webinar, and I'll be looking forward to seeing you at the next webinar. Thank you. And
Thank you for coming. Bye-bye.